earrings. It's said. Yeah, okay. So, we do another react. I really love this content creator, and all his videos are an absolute pleasure to watch. This is The State of Anime by Royalty is Here. Oh, by the way, I'm Onii-chan. You're all my emotos, whether you like it or not. This is Panko. Say hi, Panko. Panko, you can't say that. Okay. Go ahead and play on this. Wah. Wah.
Do you remember about 10 to 15 years ago, if you even uttered or mentioned you watched anime, everybody looked at you in disgust. Everybody starts distancing themselves from you like it's COVID all over again. Every woman in a 50-mile radius was no longer moister than an oyster, and no drier than the sand in the Sahara Desert. The local bully would grab you by the head, spit a leggy down your throat, and whilst it slid down the fleshy interior walls of your throat, they would laugh at you saying you probably watch Pokemon and hentai 24/7, but little did they know you were actually combining the hobbies and donating loads to Vaporeon in your spare time.
Hear me out. But anyways, so 10 years ago for me, I would have been in my 20s still. And I was into anime even before that. And when I would say 12 is when I really got into like the real thing for anime, things that were beyond like the WB Kids, like in the morning shit. I bought all right, god damn it, I'll have to look it up because I started buying manga. It was available at a Barnes & Noble at the time. That I don't think that Barnes & Noble's around anymore, by the way. But yeah, I discovered it. I knew about anime, but I knew about like the concept of like, okay, there are these animations or cartoons from like overseas that were different than what we had. And I started reading manga and I really, really loved it because the stories were so different than what we had here. I didn't like comic books as a kid because comic books felt kind of, I guess, samey to me, and I couldn't really relate or care about any of the characters that were going on in that time. But anime was so wild. Like, anime allowed itself to have a set universe, have its own set of rules, have its own set of rules for how characters functioned, and it would just play off of it and take it to an extreme at times. And I loved it. I loved it a lot. It also wasn't nearly as censored as stuff we had here. Like, I remember one of the very first mangas I bought myself was a copy of He Is My Master, which I have the entire collection of what it's available of manga for He Is My Master over there still in my shelf. Like, still the same one I bought like 15 years ago, 17 years ago when I was like 13. Whatever. It was around that time. But yeah. There's also like he mentioned that a lot of people would absolutely get shit on. Bossy, please, I'm talking. Bossy, please. Bossy's my cat, by the way. People would absolutely get shit on for liking anime. It would be to an extent as to all of like liking comic books too, because there was that era where comic books were also seen as almost not as bad as anime, but it was almost on the level of people would be like calling you names and whatnot and wanting to kick your ass for it. To an extent, video games were also the same thing at one point, where there was a lot of kids in school that I knew of who would treat video games like it was a lesser hobby, even then. Even though they would go on to eventually like buy PS2s and shit, or like grow up to be freaking Gears of War nerds. But yeah, hentai also wasn't as widely known. Like I feel when it comes to like normies or people who weren't as in the community, hentai wasn't actually as known at all. It was just the surface level anime, maybe manga stuff. Cause like even manga wasn't a thing that was known to a lot of normies. It was just like anime. So hentai was only Bossy, please, I'm speaking. Hentai was more of its like way more of its own specific niche. Oh, so it's based Vaporeon in the couch moment.
That is not an accurate representation of my experience, but I did have an Attack on Titan bag and a YouTube channel making anime meme videos. But anime has changed over the years. Not only are people free to express their interest in the animated form of media now, but they're no longer considered to be disgusting homunculuses and suspected of having children in their basement.
That's also not true. That's still a problem.
Where the same people that ridiculed it are now watching it. And in 2017, there was a big push by streaming giants like Netflix to add more anime to their streaming services and make it more readily available.
Is that where it all fell off? Is that where the downfall started? Because, like, I know a lot of people aren't into gatekeeping, and I'm not trying to gatekeep here, but anime becoming mainstream was a fucking mistake. The people who couldn't handle what kind of culture was around it, and obviously did that thing where they came in and were like, no, you got to change the culture to suit my needs. I want to partake in the thing that you like, but you have to change it for me. They flooded it. I think, in my opinion, because I'm trying to think back as to where that could have started, like, the really big anime I knew that everybody loved, that even people who weren't super into anime, was Attack on Titan. When Attack on Titan first came out, that exploded because I think it was a very, very easy barrier of entry for a lot of people. It didn't have a ton of fan service stuff. It had a lot of action, had a lot of straightforward dialogue, and its visual style, I think, was very easy to digest, where a lot of anime can be wild. And I think there, coming towards like a few years after, is where a lot of the annoying people started to get back into this, like, this culture. I'm not trying to say everyone's annoying, because there are a lot of people who are very chill about stuff. They can just be like, yeah, I like my shonens, I like my shoujo stuff, I like this or that, my ecchis or whatever. And then the people, again, like I mentioned, that just came in and decided, no, you got to change your shit for us, because fuck you. Ugh. And also not judging people who watch shonen, but I'm judging.
Anime is more popular than it has ever been.
Holy shit! What is that?
And there is more interest in anime than ever before. One Piece, Dragon Ball, Attack on Titan, JoJo, Bleach, Naruto, Kiss X Sis,
yeah!
Jujutsu Kaisen, and unfortunately My Hero Academia, are all considered legends and absolute cinema.
Stretch that dick!
And have been a more...
I know a lot of people shit on My Hero Academia, but if a lot of people, I don't know if they remember, when it first came out, there was a lot of praise for... I think it came out at just the right time, where burnout for Western, like the Avenger films, was starting to happen, and they were hating what the tropes it was becoming and kind of how shit it was. By the way, I fucking hate the Avengers films. I hate them all. So there is a slight bias, but My Hero came out and did superheroes in a way a lot of people really enjoyed. The way they handled it, like, because My Hero felt a little more Western for kind of how comic booky the character stylization was going for. And that was a good barrier, and a lot of people loved it. Even I at the time thought, okay, this is a really good way to do this kind of superhero thing. So I think a lot of the hate evolved over time, not necessarily for the show, but for the fandom. Because I do believe that it did a lot of things right when it established itself. And then Deku became fucking annoying, where everything that's not involving Deku is so much more interesting. Like, you have an episode about League of Villains, it's so much better. I think it also has the issue of there's too many characters that they're trying to jumble around that they want to use. It's kind of like how World of Gumball is, but anime. Excuse me, I'm sorry, that was a big rant.
Immortalized in people's top 10s, or God forbid people's My Anime list. Do people even use that anymore? Celebrities are even showing interest in animes now. Publicly, with no shame anymore. Bill Bear made a full video on his YouTube channel about how much he likes One Punch Man.
Yeah, I love One Punch Man.
I started to watch. I watched the first 3 episodes, and I absolutely fucking loved it. And I tweeted about it. It was a cartoon from Japan. I guess they're called anime, which I didn't know.
Them Japanese cartoons.
But I tweeted that I liked this show called One Punch Man.
I love One Punch Man.
Christian Bale likes Studio Ghibli creations and even offered to voice act in one of the English dubs.
Now you can come here whenever you like.
Billie Eilish likes JoJo.
Hello, friend. Welcome.
I can't see. Terry Crews likes Spirited Away. Daniel Radcliffe liked Monster.
Oh, that's based as fuck. Hell yeah. I didn't know that. That's so cool. Oh god, I haven't watched Monster in years. I wanted to go back through it, but it's so long. Yeah, welcome friends. Thank you for joining. We're watching The State of Anime, which I'm actually enjoying this quite a bit. Man. Is there really a person who doesn't like Spirited Away? I feel if you're going to get someone into anime that doesn't, I don't want to say dislikes it, because if they dislike it, I'm assuming they've already had some prior engagement with it. And the people who've engaged with I would call the hardcore stuff, like he mentioned Kiss X Sis earlier. If you've seen that and you're like disgusted by it, I can understand. I have not seen the new Devil May Cry anime. I've seen the old one. Apparently the new one's a fucking dumpster fire that it's like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take your franchise and we're going to put our own little political ideologies in it and just say, fuck these characters. That's all I've ever seen people talk about with it. But I still need to watch it, so I guess I don't have a true opinion on it. I'd be willing to sit down and watch it. I don't own, it's on Netflix, right? Yeah, I don't own Netflix. I don't own a lot of streaming services, actually. I guess the closest thing to a streaming service I actually own is Spotify.
Did he like Yosaga no Sora? Chris Brown was another that liked One Punch Man.
Wait, is that real?
Unrelated note.
Tell me that's not real.
Liked Naruto. But as it is today, you can be as open as you want about liking.
I have played all the. I've played all of the Devil May Cry games except for 5. I even have the manga collection for it. I like me some Devil May Cry. I love obviously everybody loves DMC3. Everybody loves DMC4 and you know playing your like Bloody Palace and whatnot. I have the proper opinion of hating 2, which god damn it, why are there demon tanks? And 1 is just, boy, you can really tell this was going to be like Resident Evil, huh?
Is everywhere now. It is considered mainstream. It's even in Fortnite, for God's sake. It indirectly led to the invention of VTubers.
Shondo!
Halftime shows for sporting events.
Oh, poor Shondo. Give her your love, guys, please.
Anime has nowhere near the reputation it had years ago. That
Absolutely not.
Directed to the adults that watch My Little Pony and Bluey. But today's video is a step away from the usual content. And because I haven't talked about anime in a while, in months, and I thought I would clean your palate.
You're right, the JJK fandom is the worst.
How anime has changed to become more mainstream and socially acceptable, whilst also becoming one of the most gatekept, overworked, people's entire identity.
Go beyond. Plus. Ultra.
And one of the most profitable and entertaining forms of media. Because once again, you're speaking to a pro. I didn't waste 6 years of my life making slop like this.
The fuck is this? I hate this.
For no reason.
I hated that.
Daddy isn't done speaking. You will come back here.
Nowadays, you don't really need a vibrator. So throw away your Rose toy and instead go to Twitter or Reddit, if you have slightly more brain cells. Turn your vibrate notifications on and say one of the following statements. One Piece is 1,000+ episodes of NyQuil. I've seen better choreographed fight scenes by a blind, limbless man than in Dragon Ball. Attack on Titan is for edgy teens that have only just graduated from Coco Melon. I used the tears from the fans that watched Clannad After Story to lube up my penis.
That one's me! Yeah, that one's me! Oh, man. Oh, fucking Clannad After Story is so stupid. It's so stupid. Clannad After Story is like Steins Gate Zero. It could have not existed, and we would have been better off for it. That's my opinion, at least. Like, why? Why did we need this bullshit afterwards? It ended just fine. Oh my god. God damn it.
Cowboy Bebop opening would have been better if it was conducted in Braille and Spike dies at the end. Then shove the phone up your crevice and let your prostate enjoy the vibrations that can only be measured by the Richter scale, tasing your asshole. For some people that really love
to be fair, I also hate One
publicly
Piece.
Crucify you if you said anything about said anime that can remotely
Problem with Madoka. With Madoka. Alright, so I also believe that Madoka was a product of its time. Where we've had this, so the whole magical girls were made for suffering thing for a little while now. And I don't believe Madoka was really the first one to like get on the whole like cutesy suffering thing. But it was, when it came out, it was very refreshing to see such a story happen. I think, what year did Madoka come out? If I remember correctly, because like we went through the Moe boom. If anybody watched anime enough to remember the Moe boom, where like K-On! Happened, and then everything that came after K-On! Was just like K-On!, where you had like A Channel and like all those other shows like that. And people got so burned out from the Moe boom, and then a bunch of edgier stuff like this was going on. Maybe I'm getting that order wrong, because I remember people felt the same way about like when like Fate Zero came out too, because it was like, oh yeah, there's a lot of that's finally getting back to being action cool shit again. I could be getting that order mixed up. I know in my brain it was something like that. Yes, I do have to play 5. I'm aware. I'm also poor as fuck, so I just can't buy it.
Death threats, derogatory comments, and racial slurs in your inbox as well.
Oh, my favorite!
You get stopped at the pearly gates constructed around animes like Madoka Magica, because the White Knight gatekeepers would all concur that you obviously didn't understand the deeper layers of meaning behind this anime, and your brain is obviously too small to understand the plot, and you must be a dribbling, clinically brain-dead vegetable. So an isekai enjoyer. And these people usually take some very precise and accurate racial slurs to their messages. Or maybe you make a funny meme about an anime character a few years ago that is known to be a female, but you make the joke they look like a guy. And a person that thinks this character has gained a pulse and transcended the 2D realm and gives them material worth like they're living and breathing.
Magical Naruha!
You are transphobic. And just how the fuck that comment has been.
It's also, god damn it, I know I bitched about it in the last like bit, but it's, god, words have no meaning anymore, huh? Just absolutely not. We're gonna apply something that I feel personally attacked by and put an entire word that depicts hate against an entire group of people upon it, for something that I couldn't take 5 seconds to like go in my brain, oh, this is just a joke involving these aspects of this character, not necessarily the aspects of this entire group. In fact, they might be entirely unrelated, right? God damn it, it happens so much. I see it so much on anime Twitter. It happens so fucking often. It's like, God forbid you claim a character isn't a Yuri or something. Also, yeah, Isekai. Isekai people get a pretty bad rap now, where I think we're way past the point of being burned out on Isekai with a lot of people. Where there are some that come out and they're still really good. Like, if they really put the work into it, but a bunch of it is just kind of generico power tripping slop. Some of that can be fine, because like I like Skeleton Knight from Another World. I really like. I'm not saying it's incredible, but there's this mid tier of anime that's extremely mid, but it is peaceful and fun to watch. Like Farming Life in Another World. I really enjoyed Farming Life in Another World. I love that manga. I'm fully caught up on it. And it's just mid-tier slop. And when it's done right, it's fine. But like In Another World with a Smartphone, it's fucking trash.
Been repeating in my head non-stop, rent-free in the fucking penthouse of my brain for years, because it makes no sense. And I hope that person accidentally kicks a toothpick into a wall and accidentally dislodges their toenail like it is the Pain Olympics all over again. Anime fans are another
Classic.
breed. Some just like animes they grew up with as a child, like Dragon Ball Z. They don't explore much outside of Dragon Ball, but watching Goku go Super Saiyan for the first time in front of an old TV, if you put your eyes to it, you could count the pixels, and had a bigger back end than anything Pyrocynical fantasizes about, but that is a core memory for them. Yeah, they'll have a phone case and background of the show, but that's where it stops. They never argued with others about the show, they never joined in community lynchings. They simply just enjoyed the show. And no matter anyone else's opinion, they're not going to take that away from them. These people are the silent majority of any anime fanbase. Then you have people that take it 10 times more seriously.
I think Dragon Ball is, in a way, a very special case. Because I've known a couple people where Dragon Ball was their like real venture into anime as a concept, and Dragon Ball did a lot for anime way back when, even with like when it comes to like the Americanized versions of it are being brought here, or if you were able to get like your hands on it via the subbing groups. There's a lot of things Dragon Ball, I wouldn't say it did first, but it did it in a way that it reached such a broad audience, it might as well have been first, if that makes sense. And I know that maybe it's a contradictory way, but like that's contradiction. But things like Master Roshi blowing up the moon, that was huge. When that happened, it was a big deal because nothing had, outside of like Superman comics, had power scaling like that, where a dude blows up the moon by firing a freaking beam from his hand. Same thing with Goku going Super Saiyan for the first time. That was also a huge deal for like when it happened. It was very much so, how to say, like, again, it's a power scaling thing we didn't have prior. When a lot of like superhero comics we had at the time was, we have this character, this is what they can do, this is how strong they are, and we can bullshit their writing to make them flexible for the moment. Where Goku came out and was like, I'm pushing past the limit. I'm pushing myself further than what I have right now into something new, into transformation. And it was huge. And the people at the time respected that. A lot of people really, really enjoyed and respected that concept. And he was right. They shut the fuck up about it because, oh, this is some cool shit that happened. What am I going to complain about?
Like their whole life revolves about
School Days
in general, or just one specific anime.
Happy birthday to
Wait,
you.
hold on.
Happy birthday, Kotono.
Hold on a sec.
They've got all.
I think I know that guy. Hold up. I absolutely hope. I'm gonna have to go back and look at the video later. There's a guy that posts on Tech Board on 4chan, on the battle station threads, that his whole desk is just covered in that character from School Days. The entire desk, and he's got all these old CRT monitors. I wonder if that's him. Oh my god, I hope so. It's fucking awesome. Oh. Excuse me for not remembering the names of every character from School Days and Shining Days, okay?
Figurines, all the merch, even the off-brand body pillows, and the rare holy grail that is a fleshlight styled after one of the characters. These people are the loud minority of anime fandoms, and people you can find in every internet community.
Does anybody remember from the... I know it was the K-On! Era of anime, because I remember it was either on Senkaku Complex or one of those like forum boards I would go on at the time. I think it was Senkaku Complex, where they had anime-themed panties you could buy in this, like in Japanese stores that were based off of characters, and they were either scented or stained based on the character that they were based off of. That was a holy grail. Fleshlight ain't shit.
Look at you. Thinking you have all the power in the world, thinking you could trick me. I've fallen for your illusion. How disappointing. So, you're gonna longingly gaze at me.
The fuck did he mean by longingly gaze at me? And the more seriously they take this anime and not treat it like a work of fiction,
unironically me,
no impact on anyone, the more likely it's going to come off as things like cringe. Or they'll just send you racial slurs for saying something about their anime. They usually take up 1 to 2% of all fans. but with how loud they are, they usually set the reputation of that community, especially of the animes they represent.
I hate what I'm watching. What was that?
Fairies are displayed to be depraved, unredeemable humans, but a lot of fairies are closeted about their hobby and work a full-time job in IT and are saving up all their paychecks to either get an entire bad dragon collection to decorate their room, because people do that now, or an AC unit for their fursuit, but still have a negative stigma around them due to actual degenerates, and I'm talking less than the 1%, unfortunately.
That's the bestiality person. Yeah, that's the zoophile from VR chat. Oh, god damn it. I think that's the one where they tried to organize a group. Like, you know how like maps are quote unquote organized? Like they're trying to make their own little group. I believe this person also tried to make a group for how it's like zoophiles rights or some bullshit. Ah, man. Well, good old VR chat. Never change. But I also can agree to an extent he's right. I know a lot oh my god. A lot of people really like to shit on furries. The furries that are out there that are very vocal and open about what they like. To be honest, a lot of the shit they like is fucking awful. Not trying to shit on them because like a lot of us like awful shit, but it's like there's a weird stereotype of you guys really like inflation. You really like it. It's not my thing, but it's kind of a stereotype, and a lot of stereotypes are there for a reason. I'm just saying. Like I knew a furry. I had a friend who was a furry for a couple years, and I remember when they were building their little fursuit. They were just, she was really nice. She was a really sweet girl. She was just really into furry shit.
Being a part of the same community, and historical instances like the fairy convention pizza, which we won't speak about. And once again, for like the 50th time,
I need to know.
Fairy, and my profile picture is a cute bird I found, not a platypus.
Based on
Smugglana!
Platypus British femboy VR chat enjoyer.
Bit of a long anecdote, but this is the unfortunate reputation
it's Smugglana!
Like the My Hero Academia community, which has been the internet's spittoon for a number of years now, due to some of the fanbase being very vocal about their love for this anime and almost taking it too
fucking
seriously,
Dobby.
to the point where self-awareness goes out the window.
Absolutely. That's awful.
Probably due to the fact most of them are children with unrestricted access to the internet more than previous years, and they're just having fun. And they like feeling a part of a community with shared interest with others.
Sorry to pause this again, but so there's one thing the internet really disallows now, and I feel like we would have gone further in the other direction than what we are. People aren't allowed to be cringe anymore. You just can't let someone be cringe for whatever reason now, especially kids. Like kids by like their like inherent age are fucking cringe. They're still figuring it out, and they only know how to take their interests to an extreme. Like, because they're finding their own form of self-expression and how do you express yourself via the art that you enjoy. Like the same thing, like people who really like a genre of music or something, and that's all they do is they dress like the people who are in that genre of music. Like the kids who enjoyed like black metal back in high school, who would also unironically wear corpse paint and shove at Hot Topic, or the kids who are really, really like into like rap music and they would have the very stereotypical like jerseys and shit on. But yeah, it might like, so looking back at this, it's cringe, right? It's obviously cringe, but so is anime in general and as a whole. I'm not going to pretend that it's not. I'm not going to tell someone, yeah, no, this is actually cool and it's not cringe. You're stupid. No, I'm fucking watching Booba Girl doing Booba thing. Kiss X Sis in the bathroom pissing behind her brother's back shit, you know? I'm not going to pretend that's not weird and cringe, right? But we can like weird and cringe, but for whatever reason, the internet doesn't allow that anymore. And yeah, so we're going to be like, oh yeah, you're weird and dumb and vocal about it. That's fine. There's also the issue of, okay, yeah, you're weird and cringe, you can be weird and cringe, but could you also be weird and cringe over there? Your weird and cringe doesn't always have to be shoved in our faces, and it doesn't have to be your personality 24/7. I can respect you wanting to be weird and cringe, but maybe if you're interacting with me, dial it back a little bit.
But once again, with instances like this,
all right,
some
but
internet restrictions,
Parking Lot Kingdom Hearts was the peak of it.
Required, and a lot may grow out of this phase and look back at it and cringe, which is very natural. At their age, I was playing League of Legends. But as a result of this, My Academia is one of the most looked down upon communities, even though the anime isn't that bad for the first 3 seasons. But there's even Attack on Titan fans that have the reputation of being very vocal about criticism towards the anime and just being very hateful towards anyone that does criticize their anime. But a lot of it comes from the subreddit
God forbid you criticize Attack on Titan
the people that are
in
being
its
most vocal
awful length and
take
release
the anime too seriously.
system.
I still don't know how for an entire decade people thought Levi was a heartthrob, except for the fact he's the same height as Moist Critical, I guess. And then you have JoJo fans that have the reputation of kissing men on their barely lips. But as I said, it's these small pockets of those louder than everyone else that make the reputation of an anime the equivalent of a moldy cum shot. But most of these fandoms have a lot of creativity and good cosplay at the end of the day.
Gutsu.
But you can see both sides of an anime fandom at events and conventions. That's why there's such an emphasis on wearing deodorant.
Onii-chan, I have a dick!
One of the many positive sides of anime is no, it's not
wife
anime titties. The good plots and storylines.
What am I watching? I'm watching the State of Anime by Royalty is Here. Also, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Of red being painted on my walls. When the anime
That's me when I wake up every morning.
Ends and you're feeling empty and even more lonely than ever. Or heaven forbid they start releasing the seasons in parts. No, the best part about anime is that there is so much anime. Oh, you like Harry Potter, you Hufflepuff bitch. There's about 20 different animes about a high school specializing in magic. Even one where he's just reincarnated Ziz.
He forced me to trick you. I hate myself for what I did.
No, it's the dub.
A musclehead that's only magic is his muscles and the trend running through his veins. You want an anime?
I didn't like Mashal very much. I tried to get into it, it wasn't my thing.
So many edits of it, like goddamn. But there's Code Geass that turns out by 10 times he's a student by day but a masquerading hero by night, coordinating and murdering people in droves, specifically the British. One of my favorite animes, by the way. Oh, you have a fetish for being cooked? There's that one scene in Berserk. You want an anime like Breaking Bad?
God damn it.
You actually got me there, but if you're looking for an anime like Better Call Saul, there's Ace Attorney, I guess. But the fact of the matter is, there's so much anime out there, there's something for everyone.
Yeah. Commodore, I think that's also a very fair thing. Like, there's a lot of anime to enjoy, and then there's a ton of slop. But alright, so a lot of people view anime as its own segregated thing from like the rest of media. And I don't view anime like that. I view anime as like, it's just television, but animated, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. Or it's like, okay, yes, it's all its own like thing. We're gonna have its own style from its own country. But I view it like television. There's too much variety in anime for me to clump it all together as a singular thing. Like, I'm not gonna say Yosuga no Sora is anything like watching Astro Boy. Oh, made anime shorter. A lot of people, I don't know if you guys remember, or if anybody's old enough to remember, that there were a lot of shows back in the mid 2000s, like the 2010s era, in which anime was actually being stripped of its runtime, where a lot of anime, most anime coming out now, in fact, is a full like 24 minutes, 30 minutes long for like TV production. But there was a chunk of time where so much anime was stripped down to 12 to 15 minute episodes. So it was like, and it was still in 12 episode chunks. It was actually very rare to get anime beyond a 12 to 13 episode run, regardless of its runtime. Now it's like we have season after season after season of anime, and I feel like it's very much so fallen into the Western trap of we just need to keep making shit and not ending it. Because like shonens are like that, right? Shonens are designed to run forever. Like I am almost convinced One Piece you could just run it forever and be like, yeah, we're just still searching for the thing, and it would work because that's how that world functions. And it's also designed to sell 1 billion copies because of freaking Shonen Jump. Yeah, there was also like I think the Full Metal Alchemist era where there was also a ton of shows that were like super long because anime's fluctuated in weird ways with that. There'd be like shows like Monster, like you mentioned. Like I think how much was FMA? Because FMA was also really long, right? That was a full 24. Because the animes usually came out in 12 episodes, 24 episodes, like 6-episode OVAs was a common one. It had a period where I remember, I think it was it Tsukihime that I'm thinking of? Is it the Tsukihime anime that was really short? Like that era had an era of like anime was fucking short for a while, and then we came back to like full run times. But then things just had 1 billion seasons now. Things just have 1 billion seasons. Again, I could just be talking out of my ass because I'm fucking old, but I'm trying to remember that going backwards. It went from like chunk to chunk to chunk to chunk where you had expectations of how anime would run and their run times.
But with an anime for everyone, there
totally haven't seen all 2 seasons of that.
Anime that is more graphically complex, more manga turned into anime, more sloppy isekai we all hate but can't stop watching for some.
I loved Redo of Healer.
Demand some animes are rushed or not as good quality as people would have thought. Or maybe it slightly differs from the manga, leading to everyone bitching about it on Twitter how a single bulge in a person's pants in the manga that was not fully translated into the anime contributed to the story's plotline heavily and how disappointed they are. But from these expectations, demands, crunch times, and maybe just Japan in general, you have people that make the anime basically living and sleeping at their offices and giving all their time to tediously draw frame by frame to make sure it's properly depicted and presented in Dan, how much a dump truck the grand.
So that's not anything new. Animators in Japan for years now have been basically like hard crunch time. I think a lot of Japanese work culture has been like that. If anybody remembers the old anime School Rumble, there's actually a bit in School Rumble where he actually like goes to I think it's the production studio that makes School Rumble, and he complains that people shouldn't be treated the way they are. Yeah, I think there was a bit in there about that, and that anime is old as fuck. Also, I remember what you're talking about. We're having to get them on like certain like tapes or laser discs. I remember subbing groups would like at certain small conventions would get their hands on like weird animes from over in Japan that they like would sub themselves poorly, mind you, on VHS tape. If anybody remembers the old like not for sale or rent, if you paid for this you got screwed kind of thing, that was on a lot of the old subbing group like forums and whatnot online that you'd find where they would do their shit and be like, hey, yeah, you weren't supposed to pay for this unless it was like a physical copy.
Mother is. But don't worry, there is something just as tedious but slightly more
Beef
efficient.
stars.
CGI. If you're a hardcore anime fan, just the mention of CGI in your favourite anime probably just made your lip quiver and cheeks tighten up, because CGI has an infamous reputation in anime. Well, it's not just anime anymore. Due to how god-awful it is, and how much people shit on it, because it always stands out from the non-CGI components like a...
Okay, hold on. I gotta bring up an episode of this. Hold up. So, CGI is not a new thing in anime at all. CGI has been in anime since like early 2000, and it looked like shit. It looked like ass. Does anybody remember Burst Angel? How the mechas looked like in Burst Angel? I'm trying to find... I don't remember the full name of the anime. It was an old Final Fantasy anime, and Was it Final? It was an old anime that was Final Fantasy. I'm not talking about Spirits Within. I'm talking about it was a literal anime, and all of the enemies like that showed up in it were fucking awful CG. They weren't good even back then. God damn it. I don't remember the name of it because I know it's got a specific name. Is it Final Fantasy Unlimited? Is that what I'm thinking of? It might be Final Fantasy Unlimited. See if I can bring up an image of it. No, I don't. Was it that? It might be. It might be that. I think it might be that if I'm looking this up right because I know it was early 2000s. But yeah, go look at the CGI in that shit. It was bad, and it was still old. Voices of a Distant Star. Does anybody remember Voices of a Distant Star? That entire movie, like the 2D parts in that film are beautiful, and then they have their alien fights, which are like CG, and that look like dog shit. And that's from how old is this? Voices of a Distant Star. I'm on Wiki right now. That's from 2002. But yeah, so like CG is not new. CG, I think, disappeared from the forefront for a little while, where at least to my knowledge for production wise, because I actually have a lot of friends who are 3D artists. I'm friends with people who do 3D artists like professionally. They've worked on actual anime stuff before. A gentleman I know actually worked for Rooster Teeth for years and years, animating on doing 3D for like Ruby and whatnot. And like especially if you look at anime, especially you can see it now more so, where there's so much of it as a base for them to pretty much trace over and use kind of like as a rotoscope thing. But no, it's been there, and it fucking sucked. It always sucked. It was always bad, unless you're I'm gonna make myself sad saying this. I'm gonna make myself sad saying this. This fucking Studio Orange, man. They will never give us another Hoseki no. We're never gonna get it. One of the best 3D anime to ever exist. Just never gonna get more. Land of the Lustrous. Never. God fucking damn it.
Landmine in a pile of infants. Many people describe it as 1 minute you're enjoying absolute cinema, and then you're slapped out of it by something that looks like the Timu version of the main character. But don't worry, this one scene is still more visually appealing.
Don't worry, they fixed it in the Blu-ray.
Than anything High Guardian Spice had to offer.
I watched all of High Guardian Spice.
Rest in peace for any hopes of a non-CGI series, Berserk. All have used it and all have been criticized for it because it just doesn't look good. And many people feeling if there is time constraints,
I watched that show too.
Company resources that warrants the use of CGI, why didn't you just delay the episode? We would have been equally annoyed and complained equally as much, but I don't like Aaron looking like an out-of-the-box G.I. Joe. So either way, you cannot win with the anime fans. And in the current age, less people want to go to the front lines, that is working in the anime industry, probably due to the fact they have historically been underpaid and overworked even for Japanese standards. So with less people wanting to
that must be really bad, huh?
Industry to make your isekai slop, combined with the popularity and craving for anime growing exponentially.
I didn't give a shit about Demon Slayer.
You may be seeing a lot more CGI in the future, but hopefully they follow examples like Demon Slayer and Chainsaw Man.
No, I love Chainsaw Man.
Very sparingly and on
Chainsaw Man.
So your small brain and
God. I don't like Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer visually is fine. It's by UFO Table. Their work on animation is immaculate. Like they're a standard to be reached, right? Demon Slayer's story is just very generic-y. I actually I'm a big fan of Chainsaw Man. I love the manga a lot. And I think they did a lot right with the anime. The only parts of the anime I actually didn't like were a lot of the fight scenes. He actually makes a point where it's like he talks about it throws you out. The 3D fight scenes in Chainsaw Man really, really throw you out of it. And I think it's not necessarily the fault of anybody animating. I think it's a translation issue where I think also the same thing with Berserk. there's when you turn the page or you look at something, the imagery of the single page you're on is striking. It's like that's what you're getting. You're getting impact from the way the artist interpreted on a single frame. And turning that into an animation, I'm going to assume is really, really hard with things that are like that, where Berserk, every time Guts swings his sword in Berserk, you can feel the heft and the weight and the crunch and the way Mura interpreted it on the page. Or Guts shows up in a single page and he looks menacing. And you have the option to just hold that there, and holding it for a few frames where you have to continuously move on and interact with other people in the world, I don't think works out well. I think it's a translation issue with that, not necessarily like the material itself.
You can't even register it happened. Or maybe Land of the Lustrous, that was entirely CGI. With
that fucking manga.
It looking amazing. But I think CGI is only going to get better, because once again, you cannot...
Okay, alright, hold on. I need to go back to this shot here. Fate, I think it was Fate Stay Night. I think it was Fate Stay Night. Because when they remade not the Unlimited Blade Works film that they did prior, but like the actual show that they came out after Zero. Their CG work was too good for their animation, and it really stood out because it looked too good. I'm remembering this scene to where I think it's like Shido's still in the school, like at the beginning of the series, and there's summoning I think it's a summoning Lancer, right? And there's this like black puff cloud thingy, and it looks super good, but it looks so good as a 3D object that it stands out so much on a 2D plane.
Going to get better, because once again, you cannot beat the nightmare that was the Berserk adaptation.
Yummy.
You can.
A piece of that ass, Gordon. Hit me up after work today.
You absolutely can beat it.
Anime has changed significantly over the past 10 years. It's no longer a looked down upon media, and nobody physically
That's not true.
now after expressing your interest in it, as the popularity of anime has skyrocketed these past 10 years. But due to that popularity, a lot of problems have come with it, like people taking the media too seriously and attacking anyone that dares criticize it. And also, due to said popularity, there is a higher demand for anime than there has ever been, with anime production companies finding it hard to keep up with that demand and return something that is high quality and respectable to the source material, whilst dealing with their own problems like a historical lack of manpower. But that is anime as it is today, and all I had to say. Bye-bye.
Wah, wah. That was wonderful. That was a nice video. I ranted a lot during that. That was the State of Anime by Royalty is Here. Give me a sec. I have to put a marker in my chat. There we go. I can understand a lot of people's hatred with 3D in anime. I 100% can understand it, because to an extent it looks awful. Like, it doesn't look great, especially not something with as higher budget as we might be used to over here in the West when it comes to like CG. But I have the interpretation in my head, at least being friends with people who are into 3D for like, I've known people who done this for the past 10 years or so, and it's not what it looks like currently. It's because we can admit it looks like ass, especially in a lot of anime, but it's what it took to get there that I can appreciate. It's what we went through to make it look like it is now that I can appreciate. Because it's like, boy, was it rough. Was it really rough? Hoseki no Kuni as a visual thing, is it super incredible? I don't necessarily think so, but I think for what it is, and especially in anime, it's one of the heights of what it stands for when it comes to stylization. I think Studio Orange did a very good job at trying to bring that style into the fruition. They did really, really well in Beastars when it comes to that as well. And then I think they did Trigun, right? The new Trigun, which, boy, did I not care about the new Trigun at all. But it's another thing where you can see their evolution as to how well they've developed the concept of what do you call it? Doing it. The concept of making it like 3D or working in that specific kind of plane. I don't think it necessarily means killing an old beauty, because there's still a lot of 3D work done in like entirely 2D shows. You can see a lot of the rotoscoping and a lot of characters, like you can absolutely tell the 3D is under them, right? And I think that it can work together, but I think the mediums clash too much sometimes when they're not blended well. They need to be blended properly or it stands out, and I hate that. But it's also used a lot, because I'm not going to defend one thing where I'm absolutely aware it's used a lot as a shortcut. It's used a lot as like basically a budget cut for things to get around stuff. And one thing that sticks out a lot is bad environments. So Konosuba, I love Konosuba. The Konosuba season 2 opening, I think, is one of my favorite anime openings ever, because it feels just like an episode of the anime condensed to like a minute section, and it's so fitting for that show. But season 3's opening has a section in which they're fighting a dragon, and it's a single bridge and a tower, and they're 3D, and I think it looks like shit. I think the background is empty. I think the environment looks empty, and I understand it's there purely as a set piece to fight that dragon, but it looks bad. And I'm not the biggest fan of how the 3D is. Oh my god, I'm trying to remember. There's a scene in Eminence and Shadow. By the way, I love Eminence and Shadow a lot, but I ironically love it because I think the show is fucking dog shit. But every time Lelouch said, oh my god, I called him Lelouch. my brain conflicts. Oh my god, it might as well be the same character in my head. Fucking Sid and Lelouch might as well be the same character. God damn it. Anyways, anytime the main character opens his mouth, the stupidest shit falls out. And I think it's so fucking rad every time he does anything and the characters around him are also doing the stupidest shit. I love dumpster fires. Like, I have a big love in my heart for dumpster fires. That's why I like David Cage games. David Cage games need to continue existing so I can continue consuming these dumpster fires, right? Fucking Eminence and Shadow is that to me. It is just a big dumpster fire. And I know I got off track with it, but there's some 3D work in that, and that's bad. There's a part where Sid, the main character, is walking sideways on a building, and you can see the 3D rotating with a very poorly done like 2D overlay on it. God damn it. Call them Lelouch, of course. Maybe it's because he talked about Code Geass in the episode, but man.